If you could call the roll to establish quorum.
Natalie Chapman. Craig Pinder.
Alternate Mosey Abdulrahmanov.
Ted Goodenough. Joan Oliva.
Christopher Rose, alternate for Joan Oliva.
Joanne Scaria is excused. Fadi Nazar. Ryan Mugridge.
Here.
JC Beery.
Here.
David Willock.
Here.
Casey Berkron. Bruce Guyton. Michael Owens.
Here.
Christian Santa Gonzalez. Joel Rosales. Jermaine Swaby.
Here.
Tim Crespo.
Donate for Team Crespo.
Quentin Williams.
Here.
Tracy Phelps. Stephanie Thoborn.
Here.
Claudette De Los Santos.
What about hate for Claudette?
Catherine Wall.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you. I see there's new faces. Catherine Wall, we welcome you. We welcomed you a couple months ago, but I'm glad you're here. Safe Kids, right? Palm Beach County. Okay. Do you want to give us a little bit of your background, what you do, how you're going to help us?
I would love to, and thank you for the invitation and allowing me to join this. My name is Kathy Wall. You can call me Catherine. Kathy is better. And I am sorry I missed the last meeting. I had back surgery in March and had no clue how long it would take to get going again. So I'm so happy to be here today. Safe Kids Palm Beach County is dedicated to decreasing child injuries. So we do everything for child injury prevention. We talk about safety at home. One of our biggest programs is our Safe Sleep program, but we also talk to parents and caregivers about medicines and cleaning products and cleaning supplies and poisons that, and how they can keep their homes safe from toddlers and curious kids. We have a robust safety at play program where we talk about hydration, concussions. We do a lot, and we've been so lucky to work with the TPA for bike helmet fitting programs. We're all certified bike helmet fitters. So we do a lot with the bike helmets in the community. We also have our biggest program, I'd say, is our Safety on the Way. And that obviously includes our pedestrian safety. We've worked very closely with TPA in the past for the Walk to School Day. It's typically the first Wednesday of the month in October. This year, I think we're looking at the Walk and Bike to School Day on the 9th, and we're working with the school districts. And historically, in the past, we've had close to 70 elementary schools participate with that to teach. The PE teachers do a curriculum with the kids on pedestrian safety. And then we culminate with a walk to school where parents walk with their kids, talk to them about the crossing guards, the rules of the roads, and the importance of pedestrian safety. So I'm just really excited to be on this committee and work and meet with all of you guys.
Well, welcome. Okay, so we'll get started. Are there any changes to the agenda?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. So the next item is the minutes for June 6th. Are there any changes from the board on the minutes? Nobody? I just had one little change. I think I saw my name was spelled a
Oh,
little
I'm so sorry. Okay.
off. Not a big deal. So if there are no changes, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
There we go. Michael Owens.
I'll second.
David? Okay, can't see you, David. That's all. Okay. And all right, all those in favor say aye.
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 All, any opposed? Okay, that passes. The minutes are approved. So the next item is general public comments and public comments on agenda items. Instructions on how to provide public comments are in the agenda. Staff, have any general comments been received?
No, Madam Chair. And for the record, Fadi Nazar joined the meeting at 9:31. Aaliyah Bennett's joined the meeting at 9:32, and Elijah Brown joined the meeting at 9:33 a.m.
Okay, thank you. I know it's kind of rainy out there, so. Okay, next item are comments from the board. So if we want to go around, any comments? Does anybody have any comments that you want to bring up? I don't see anybody. David? Oh, okay.
Hey, good morning. Just want to give some updates to the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office. We have deployed 4 aggressive driving vehicles. They are unmarked. We are working our major thoroughfares, the highway, I-95, Turnpike, Southern. So the sheriff has initiated that to try to cut down on some of the traffic and the aggressive driving. We have the street takeover, so that's been implemented. We're also exploring some ideas of traffic cameras. We're looking at 3 different vendors, the safety, what they would be school zone safety cameras. They also have LPR reading and they would provide speed data for the TPA. And we also, Fadi and I have been in conversations looking at certain companies that would be able to provide speed data throughout Palm Beach County based on connected vehicles. So I think Fadi would be able to probably elaborate more on what the county's looking at. We did have a presentation with a company called Urban SDK yesterday. Pretty cool information, you know, everything, obviously, everybody knows cell phones and cars are tracking us now, so it's giving us data based on that information. But Fadi will probably be able to elaborate what company they think we're gonna use more or lean towards, but some updates from the sheriff's office. I want to keep you guys updated.
Where are they? Where are you going to be stationed so I know where to go?
It's with the aggressive driving car, it's just like, yeah, they're out there. You probably won't know it till it's too late, but they're Ford Mustangs and Dodge Chargers, so.
Okay, great, great.
Actually, I had a question about that too. Are they going to be in the particularly like aggressive driving areas?
So we're focusing on major thoroughfares. That could be anywhere in Southern Boulevard. We are helping FHP on the highway. We work with them quite often. But we are focusing a lot on the street takeovers. I'm not sure if you've watched.
Oh, yeah,
Anytime they do intersection takeovers or burnouts and donuts, we've actually had 10 arrests in the last operation. So they've been doing, they're like an investigator. Also, they're out there writing tickets, but anytime there's a traffic crime, anybody that runs from the police, we use LPR, we use technology, and we go arrest them later on or write a warrant and go grab them. So.
All right. It sounds like a great idea.
Hang out by the high schools. That's where I
Yes.
think. Fadi, did you want to add to that or?
Yeah, I guess the advantage of, getting data from connected vehicle is that we can have information on something like hard braking or near misses and so forth. And this is type of information usually we don't get by just looking at crash records. Part of our Safe Street for All, we're negotiating with the consultant, and it seems like we're probably going to get some kind of license with NRIX SafeView, which include this information. I'll have more to say once we have, the consultant on board and we have clear contract and scope, we can share that with you.
Great. Great. Thank you. Thanks for the update. Okay. If we don't have any more, I don't have anything either. We can move on to Valentina's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. So I want to recognize Kathy again. Thank you for joining. We're really happy to have you here in our committee. So in today's committee, you'll see our annual report right in front of your desk. We do this every year. For this year, it's a fiscal 2024 annual report where we highlight all of our accomplishments and highlights throughout the fiscal year. So next is our TPA Model Complete Streets Policy. We had this Model Complete Streets Policy posted already, but we just went through the process of updating it to better align with best practices that are out there. So if you are interested in adopting a complete streets policy and maybe you're not sure where to start, this is a really good resource. So you can download the template on our website at palmbeachtpa.org/complete streets. Next is the walk bike safety audit process. So we are actually going through the process of providing a more refined criteria for those walk audit requests that we may get from the general public and from agencies. So we will be posting that on our website soon. So please be on the lookout for that. Next is the Trail Go Local Trail Management Grant. So the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, Office of Greenways and Trails, they did announce a new trail grants for operations and maintenance. So if you're interested in applying, that is open August 1st through August 31st. Next is the 2055 Florida Transportation Plan. So as you all know, the TPA and MPOs in general, we have a long-range transportation plan. Well, so does the state. So the state's long-range transportation plan is called the Florida Transportation Plan. And that is underway, and I believe they are looking for input on that. So you can visit the floridaftp.com website to provide your input. Next is the Vision 2050 Long Range Transportation Plan. So if you're interested to review the projects that were submitted for the local desires and all of that, you can visit our website at palmbeachtpa.org/LRTP. Next is the Florida Local Technical Assistant Program. You can sign up for the LTAP newsletter where there's a lot of informational webinars and trainings and other training opportunities that you can find. So if you're interested in that, you can visit the floridaltap.org website. And that concludes my liaison report.
Thank you. Do we have any comments on the report?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay. Public. Now, any comments from the board or questions for Valentina? No? All right, so we'll keep moving for our first action item, which is the fiscal year 2025 strategic plan. And Brian Ruscher, Deputy Director of Multimodal, will present this item. Thanks.
Thanks for giving us a little trouble yesterday, so give me 1 second. All right, we're good. Morning, everyone. How are we doing today? Happy fiscal year. No excitement? Okay. I was told to say that. Andrew's very excited about the fiscal year. All right, so Brian Ruscher, Deputy Director of Multimodal, here to present the 2024 progress report for what we completed in last year's strategic plan, as well as our 2025 recommended updates to our governing board for the 25 strategic plan. So for those of you who do not know, we have a strategic plan. This is our above and beyond effort from our Unified Planning Work Program. That is also called our UPWP. Our UPWP basically is our baseline, what we will accomplish throughout the year. Again, the strategic plan goes above and beyond that. The progress report highlights some of the elements that we completed, but we are going to go through the 24 report in full and hopefully give you an idea of some of the things that the agency is accomplishing and some of the changes that we're going to go into for 2025. So diving right in, engaging the public is our first goal. And we have met all of the goals for pretty much all of the actions in this. So that is wonderful. We had a goal last year of about 400 comments. We stretched that to 500 for the fiscal year 24 timeframe. We had 617 comments across our online map, responses to our surveys and other platforms. So that's a fairly good amount of public comments just on the transportation system overall. What we do with those is we take those to our partners at cities, the county, and FDOT to consider implementation or operational changes to roadways, rails, etc. We've increased our social media engagement and almost tripled our goal for users reached. So we had a goal of 125,000. We had nearly 340,000 users reached. So we're doing wonderful on our content. Our public relations and involvement team is doing an incredible job reaching new members of the public, engaging them about our activities and our mission and our vision. We've also refreshed some of our content and presented to a number of different agencies and groups while engaging the public. We've also met most of the marks for planning the system. We have a speed management plan, that action plan that's in process right now. Otherwise, we've also created a new process for pedestrian and bicycle field safety reviews, as Valentina mentioned in her liaison report, and we have created a countywide mobility vision and funding plan, which is created. We just need to share some of the recommendations with city and county partners to finalize it before we publish. For prioritization of funding, again, we've met all these marks as well. We adopt our annual funding program, and we went through a update last year to revise those funding programs. Not a lot of changes to the TA program last year. The TA and the LI program, local initiative and strategic state road modifications, did have some changes. So that's a separate funding program. For the supporting and tracking of discretionary grants, as well as pursuing discretionary grants, we've had some really great success assisting our local municipalities and our counties with this. For supporting, we've supported 14 different grant applications this year, as well as helped to pursue discretionary grants for our cities along the way. For the implementation of projects, we have had a little bit of difficulty, but we were ultimately able to meet our goal with resurfacing projects, and that's largely due to budgets being constrained. A lot of agencies are not able to implement additional project ongoing, so you'll see some changes to goal 4A in the 25 plan. But otherwise, we did meet that goal. We did help for 3 complete streets improvements on upcoming resurfacing projects, and those have been programmed, as well as assisting municipalities with project identification and grant submittals. So that is increased. We met that mark and then improved on it by 2. And the last slide for 2024, we have the collaboration with partners. We do a very, very hefty lift when it comes to collaborating with partners and ensuring that users know how to interact with the transportation system. So for us, assisting local governments with transportation and mobility studies and plans, we accomplished that goal. We've also conducted 9 events on topics of interest. So these are our complete streets, our safety, our Vision Zero type events. We did 9 of those when our goal was 4. So we doubled that outcome from the proposed action, as well as creating the TDM model policy and conducting site visits over the past fiscal year. Lastly, administering the agency. This is more of like the internal workings of how we do business as a body. And we implemented a number of accounting systems. We went to 56 trainings as a staff and or governing board. And our goal was 40. So we met both of those actions, along with some of the other kind of administrative things that we needed to do in the back end to ensure the continuity of operations for the agency as well. So what's coming in fiscal year 2025? The way that this is laid out is that there are strike throughs and underlines on the PowerPoint. So you will see that anything that is stricken is a deletion, anything that is underlined is a new insertion, and everything is circled for your ease of consumption. The only changes that we have here on engaging the public is that we are increasing the goal over what we accomplished last year. So as you recall, we hit about 340,000 on social media. That was a big reach for us. We did a really great job pushing a lot of content. We're hoping to expand on that by about 10,000 to reach a goal of 350,000 users reached. We also did a really great job updating a lot of our content last year. This year, we want to have more interaction with that content. So we have a lot of videos that are online. We want to increase those views that we're getting over about what they are now, which is about, I believe, about 10,000. So we're going to work on making sure that those videos get pushed out and consumed more from our content side. For planning the system, this is probably the action with the most changes, because planning the system encompassing both short-term projects and long-term projects. We have our LRTP underway, so this plan, the system goal focuses more on the short-term projects this year. First and foremost is to create a transit-oriented communities policy. This builds on our mobility vision plan and the work that we've completed with Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council. We've already studied the land use and the zoning for our 561 plan countywide. We've studied through our mobility vision what the remaining transit corridors need to look like countywide. Now we need to understand how land use and zoning and other policies can complement eventual transit improvements and investments so that when we have development, it will encourage and entice multimodal activity at those sites. We also are going to conduct a micromobility rail access study. So one of our recommendations from the TPA Governing Board Executive Committee, which did see this at the end of June, was to shift goal 2B from a bicycle rail access study to include micromobility. So micromobility also encompasses bicycles. We wanted to ensure that in hearing that, we are also expanding the scope of this study to include scooters, one wheels, e-bikes, et cetera, et cetera. So we're excited to have that rail access study ongoing this year. It's a partner study. Miami-Dade County just completed a study of this nature, so we're going to use their scope as a model, hopefully get that rolling in the first quarter of this fiscal year. Lastly, for goal 2 is to update the Vision Zero action plan. As you might have noted, there are still some actions that are ongoing and very hard for an MPO to accomplish. And Safe Streets and Roads for All program is still here, and we're very hopeful that we can start pulling more of those dollars in. So if we update our Vision Zero action plan, it might be more useful in the long run for that type of activity. For goal 3, prioritization of funding, we'd like to consolidate some of the online dashboards that we have and include more of a concise place for people to go and consume information about projects. And we have a new tool that we've acquired that we'll start building out this year, which will help us do that. So our new dashboard replaces goal 3A. And then for 3C, our list of priority project structure, we'd like to continue to work and hear feedback from DOT on how we can improve that. That's our major projects, local initiatives, state road modifications, TA list, and how we can make that a little bit easier to understand in the long run and how projects get prioritized. For implementation of projects, I already mentioned that we have complete streets projects as a goal. We changed this to upcoming projects to incorporate complete streets improvements simply because agencies more or less view resurfacing projects as operations and maintenance. And it's nice to be able to incorporate complete streets projects whenever we can, but sometimes we have to expand our horizons based off of what we've heard from our partners. And that if we have a project upcoming, whether it be resurfacing or otherwise, we incorporate complete streets improvements on them. This broadens the goal, makes it a little bit easier to accomplish based off of what we've heard. It's very difficult to incorporate a true complete street with just a resurfacing project. And then for collaborate with partners, we're very excited to be hosting the Safe Streets Summit in February of this coming year. So mark your calendars, February 6th and 7th. This will take the place of this year's conduct events on topics of interest. For those of you who have not hosted a major summit before, it is a little bit of a lift. And so we're going to be replacing the 4 events that we would typically host throughout the year with a regional summit. That's not to say that we won't have events on topics of interest. We'll still have a Vision Zero workshop. We'll likely have a complete streets workshop over time, our funding programs workshop. But for this year, we would rather have the strategic plan reflective of our Safe Streets Summit based on the amount of work that's commensurate with doing a regional summit. We'll also be bringing back our mobile tours. So last year, or excuse me, fiscal year 2023, we hosted a series of mobile tours to visit the airport Operations Center, Palm Train Operations Center, Brightline, and the Port of Palm Beach. So those mobile tours help to familiarize users and the committees and the board with how our transportation system works and functions all together. So it's very unique and a good opportunity, and it's nice that we have so many willing partners that are able to host us. And then lastly, because we worked so hard last year on goal 6, we kind of recognize that within the strategic plan, it's good to have 3 goals per action or 3 actions per goal, excuse me. And so this year we are going to start providing both a board and advisory committee training, and that looks at our bylaws, our kind of standardized processes, what the committees and board should and shouldn't do, a little bit of sunshine law, a little bit of ethics, put that all together and provide that to all of the committees and our board in an annual way. We'll continue to provide the board member and staff training across, different agencies and external events and things like that, but those are separate. One is external, with 40 trainings being outside the agency for our board and staff, and then an additional training for our board and advisory committee. And then lastly, continue to produce our strategic plan and annual report. So with that, I'd like to receive a motion, recommend updates for the fiscal year 25 strategic plan, and I'll be happy to take any questions or comments.
Are there any public comments?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, now to the board. Do we have any questions, comments on the strategic plan that Brian presented? No, it's perfect. I have a couple questions.
Okay.
I understand on to plan the system where it's changing from mobility to transit-oriented communities. But sometimes some communities don't have transit.
Mhm.
So, is there a way to describe that basically we're trying to accomplish a walkable, multimodal environment that's transit ready or, so that it doesn't always just mean it's, give a more description of what that means to those who will be like, oh, well, we don't have any transit here.
Right. And that's a fair observation. While there is no, I would say transit, or maybe say no premium transit necessarily in Jupiter, or many of the other communities, maybe, for suburban areas that don't have like Palm Trend service, for example. I think it's important to recognize the nature of what could be in the future. And that's why we have our 561 plan, which has Tri-Rail running to Jupiter, Military Trail, US 1 as potential kind of options and future corridors to get to transit. I think the goal through 2A will largely be like a two-part series. One is kind of how do you make your premium corridors more transit ready, kind of like what Miami-Dade County did with the SMART plan. And that could be a number of things. I mean, good urbanism and good, development zoning will encourage the, right walking, the right biking trips. But if we don't have that in place for when we start making these transit investments, or we start making these multimodal investments, the return won't be as strong in this agency's mind. So we've already studied the potential. We know what the zoning kind of is and what it could be. We've studied what the potential for the corridors are through our mobility plan. And now we just need to start tying that all together with a really good land use and zoning plan for those corridors, and start working with our communities on how to make it better. So I think it is a little bit of future proofing the corridors, if I could speak to it in that way. And just because there's no transit now, that doesn't mean you couldn't look into the future and think, well, could we get a circulator, for example? And what does that circulator look like on the first mile, last mile solution if you're only doing pickup and drop off in specific hubs? So I think there are certain districts and certain corridors which it would be more impactful for, but generally speaking, we need to probably future proof those, and then that will help make our communities transit ready.
Yes, transit ready is a good term. I also had a question on 3C. The strikeouts are to pursue discretionary grants for TPA priorities.
Mhm.
And then the one above it is sort of like it, but
Close
it says
enough.
support and track applications, but it doesn't necessarily include the term pursue. So was that meant to take that, because I didn't see anything else that would replace. So 3C.
Okay. So support and track applications for discretionary grants, those are federal grants typically. We also include state grants in that as well, because there are some state discretionary funds that are available to be pursued district-wide. So that is where we are pursuing the helping our partners to pursue those grants through support either through a letter of support or ensuring that, you know, all of the agencies that are making the decisions about this process are involved. There's a lot of behind the scenes kind of prioritization of what's most important that we have to do, especially when it comes to things like the list of priority project structure. So we found that if applicants are able, and the TPA, just as a side note, TPA doesn't have, you know, roadway jurisdictional authority. We have no operations and maintenance responsibilities. We don't have traffic enforcement capabilities. We don't, you know, have engineers to do anything to make our roadways different. And so we find it best to lean on our partners to ensure that they keep us up to date. And that's where our support can come in and help our partners make that happen. For us, pursuing discretionary grants, you know, we have had some success helping to pursue, but it's very difficult. We would have to create partnerships with our jurisdictions through interlocal agreements. And we find it best to just let our partners lead and provide as much support as possible. And then from that, we've looked at our list of priority projects. And if it comes out that there are projects in our LOPP, which are eligible for discretionary grants, we can work with partners to make sure that those get elevated, especially for the unfunded projects. But based off of our findings from last year and working with FDOT, working with the county, working with cities, that we've talked to many of you about projects that are unfunded and could move forward or have the potential. We need to start looking at and getting better projects and a better list of priority projects structure before we can start pursuing them on our own. That's really important.
Great. I think that was all my questions. Anybody else? Oh, Fadi.
Yeah, I mean, this may not be specific to 2025, but kind of more like strategic, kind of looking forward. As they're gonna be more and more, you know, vehicle basically using vision to recognize, to be driveless, whether it's, you know, striping or sign or the location of signal head. You know, I think probably good to be proactive and start integrating those, you know, seeing it from, you know, those vehicle perspective when we do signage and we do striping, where the signal is located, the arrows and everything. And especially in work zone, because that's also, again, you know, sometimes they may misinterpret certain things. And hopefully one day we may have driverless circulators, small buses or whatever. So definitely, you know, going to the future, we need to be aware of that.
Mm-hmm. And I think that that's something it's on our radar. If you have an idea for something that we can partner up on, Fadi, let's talk after. I think that we are very curious about AV and the capabilities and the kind of needs. So if you can help us find the right place where, you know, obviously we have an MPO, you know, guidebook, we have things that we are required to do, and then things where we can kind of prepare. So if we can partner up with the county on something for autonomous vehicles, let's connect afterwards, because that would certainly help guide us into next year's strategic plan, or maybe we can think about something for this year that we can start looking at in preparation for next year.
Anybody else? Don't see anybody else. Do we want to, somebody might want to make a motion? Okay, Fadi made the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ryan made the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion passed.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, can you please clarify who made the motion and the second?
Fadi made the motion and Ryan Rugridge. I can't read it from here. That's why. Ryan made the second. Thank you. All right. All right. Thank you for that one. Now, the next action item for us is fiscal year 2026 to 2030 list of priority projects. This will be presented by Andrew Euler, Director of Programs.
Morning, everyone. Okay, so with the new fiscal year comes a new transportation improvement program. So we're currently operating now under the 25 through 29 transportation improvement program. And we just adopted that last month that you all saw. And then now we're actually working towards the next transportation improvement program. So this is going to be 2026 to 2030. And the list of priority projects is actually something unique to Florida. But we're required to present a list to FDOT of the priorities for federal and state funds for what we at the TPA can prioritize. And so our current year, again, is fiscal year 25. This is covering 26 through 30. And with that, you'll always hear reference sometimes to the new fifth year. So the new outer year is going to be 2030. So a lot of the products that come in, most of them are coming in with new phases in the outer years. And so to get to this part of the process, and then as we look forward to the adoption of a transportation improvement program for next year, it really starts a year in advance. So it starts with product development. And with that product development, we have our long-range transportation plan. And in that long-range plan, we have products that when they're feasible, they can start moving forward into the work program, the TIP. So we have those products that come as line items out of that plan. There's also specific funding programs in the long-range plan that have annual cycles. The one you're very familiar with is Transportation Alternatives. There's also local initiatives, and we've had submittals before for Sun Trail, which is shared use network for trails that the state runs. And then our major products can also have some other modifications on state roads. So all those are vetted for feasibility once they're submitted, and they're then ranked and put into this list of priority projects. So I'll be providing an update about those new additions and then any changes to the LLPP. So this happens now in July. And then once that's adopted by the governing board, FDOT uses this new list and they update all the revenue forecasts. They update all the costs associated with the products currently in the work program and ensure that everything that's in the work program currently remains stable and is moving forward. And then any new additional products and phases can get put in there with the extra money. And again, that's typically in the outer years. Once that's provided to us as a draft, it's going to be seen by the committees and board in December. So you all will see that first draft in December. We provide our comments on that, and then the final version is made next year, and that's what we build our TIP off of. So the products in the Transportation Improvement Program, which we went through last month, but it's a variety of sections in there. There's FDOT priorities, there's operations and maintenance, but the list we're looking at today is just the TPA priority products list, and that includes major products, which are mostly on state roads, local initiatives, transportation alternatives, and then the shared use network of trails. Those funding programs at the TPA specifically, first is the major products. Again, those come from the long range transportation plan, and there are other smaller modifications to state roads. These are primarily with state dollars because they're state gas taxes that are spent on state roads. Then there's local initiatives, which is our federal funds of federal gas taxes. And we can spend this on the entire federal aid system. That includes on and off the state system. And then there's the transportation alternatives, which is also a federal funds we have available to us, although a smaller pot, but those can be used on or off the federal aid system. So those typically go towards non-motorized transportation products. And so I'm just going to provide a few slides on some updates that we as staff felt was good to provide some updates on. These are changes from last year's list. And there's a huge amount of products in the list of priority products, the ones that are currently programmed and existing needs. So I'm not going to go through all those. I'm really just providing some highlights. The first one is the Tri-Rail extension on the FEC corridor, excuse me. This is product 14-1. This extends commuter service north into Jupiter. Right now, in our current plan, there is funding for more studies for feasibility that are going to be undertaken by FDOT. And with that, it's happening now in fiscal year 25, our current fiscal year. Both Broward and Palm Beach are working towards studies for Tri-Rail. And so with this study, our request to FDOT is really to ensure we're closely coordinating on the future of the study. So that's just an update when it comes to what's going to be entailed in that study. You know, it's going to look more and define locations and refining costs associated with construction and operations and maintenance. And so looking forward to that, and they're going to be presenting to us, to you all, and to the board upcoming in a couple months here on that. The next one is one that was discussed last month at other committees and then the board. And this is a study for US 27 connector out in the Glades community. This is a study by FDOT. It's a priority to the TPA in the long range plan. And so it's a truck bypass around the city of Belglade and South Bay. And there's a few alignments that FDOT is studying. They're looking for fatal flaws in those alignments. They're wrapping that study up, but the next phase, if this were to move forward, would be that product development and environmental phase. So that next phase to look more closely at one or two alignments to see if they're feasible and if we want to move forward with that. And so based on discussion at the board meeting last month, it appears that looking to prioritize this and move this along past this initial study. And so there's a request in there for around a little over $3 million for PD&E phase. Most likely requests like this would come in the outer year, as I mentioned. But with the PD&E phase, it may potentially be able to be accelerated. And the last update for major projects is one in Jupiter. This is Indiantown Road. There's already an existing priority in the list of priority projects for a product development environmental phase to study congestion and provide recommended improvements to the corridor to relieve congestion and improve safety. This is already programmed in 28, but the request is to try to accelerate this PD&E as well. FDOT has mentioned that they could try to get to fiscal year 27. So our request in there is to really just try to get it before 28. In this product development and environmental phase, they're going to evaluate the feasibility of a partial displaced left turn. So that's, I'm familiar with, for those of you, it is where you have the traffic move over earlier on before the main light, and then they're crossing on the other side of traffic. So it's a more unique design. It's happening now at Beeline and Northlake. It's another example that's going in now. But that's going to be studied in this PD&E, among other concepts to improve congestion and safety. And then I didn't put any updates for local initiatives on there in the slides. There are needs in that list still that are unfunded, about $20 million of needs in that list. Those are the same ones from last year. So those are still the same list moving forward for the LPP. For transportation alternatives, there's the 3 new submittals for transportation alternatives, which is 24-1 through 24-3. That includes Palm Street bike lanes, Northwest 2nd Ave, two-way bicycle path, Camino Real, raised bicycle lanes, and then one recommended transfer project from local initiatives that meets the needs of transportation alternatives, and that's for transit access pedestrian improvements for Palm Tran on Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard. So in total, that's $5 million, and the program has around $5 million, a little bit over that, to accomplish products every year. And so this should hopefully fit within that budget. So that's the all the updates I have for you. I can answer any questions related to these or the ones that are in the list.
Thanks, Andrew. Are there any public comments?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay. I see David first and Jermaine.
I'm curious about the Tri-Rail extension. It was called the Coastal Link before. It's been around for a long time. I think it predates Brightline considerably. Is the addition of Brightline on that rail line making the extension more difficult?
You want to answer that, Brian? Sure. Brian Richard, answer that one.
I think the addition of Brightline to the corridor adds a level of complexity. So for example, the station area analysis that was conducted previously in downtown West Palm Beach identified Avernia Street as a location for a Tri-Rail Coastal Link station. If you haven't seen Avernia Street recently, Brightline's there. So it does add a level of complexity and nuance to where stations could be located. But nevertheless, it's something where there's still a strong preference and desire to add Tri-Rail passenger service to the FEC line, whether it's called Tri-Rail Coastal Link or some other passenger service. I would venture to guess that there's a lot of more coordination now as there's FEC held by Grupo Mexico. There's also Brightline, which is a subsidiary of that, but they have their own operations, their own maintenance team. So it does require a lot more now, but that's not to say that it's not feasible any longer.
You know, I hope it goes forward, but I mean, you see the extra traffic on that line. I mean, it's got to be difficult to shoehorn in additional service. So I hope it goes forward.
Yeah, we have looked at it where there would be a need in some sections, I believe, for triple tracking, kind of like in the downtown section. We have looked at that preliminarily with cost estimates. We have those. I'm not sure if they're online. I'm gonna have to look and see if there are or not. But if you're interested, shoot me an email. I'll send them along. So
Okay,
you can see
thank
what
you.
that is.
Jermaine.
Yes, good morning. So it's my understanding that the project list includes the State Road 7 widening, and to be consistent with the city of West Palm Beach, I'll have to vote against this item.
Okay. Thank you for your consistency. Anybody else? But just on the Tri-Rail, when we get to that, I mean, I've noticed that, one of the biggest impediments, I guess it would stop before it got to the bridge in Jupiter. I noticed that Brightline has a lot of problems with that old bridge that they retrofitted that crosses the Loxahatchee River. There's been a lot of, so I didn't know, if it stops at Tony Penna, where I think that's where we were, it would be prior to the bridge, then it could be alleviate some of those issues, because I know Brightline has had problems coming down with the bridge sitting in an upright position, and Brightline's slowed down and stopped. Many times I've seen it because I live really close to the bridge. But just, if we go down that road and think about those complexities, and there are some locations in Jupiter where there are they have the triple rails by Cypress on the other side. I think it's on the north side of the bridge. So anyways, just food for thought.
Madam Chair, if I may, there is a product in the tip related to rehab of that bridge. It says fender system repair, so I'm not sure if that's going to fix that issue or not, but they are rehabbing it in 2026.
Okay. Yeah, that bridge was originally built in 1926. So they rehabbed it, but it's really low. So when the bridge is in the down position, boats can't pass. So it's like literally 3 feet above mean high in that location. So, and to raise it would be really difficult, because you'd have to raise everything around it, and nobody wants the bridge, the rails higher.
Forgive me, I'm thinking of it connected to the main bridge. It was that the main bridge is going to be rehab, not the actual rail bridge.
Oh, on alternate A1A?
On Old Dixie here, but it's not this, it's a separate bridge, FEC there.
Okay. Okay. All right. Anybody? Oh, Jermaine again.
Yeah, so with regards to Tri-Rail, I know that we with regards to the broader picture, would like to encourage pedestrians and just the general public to utilize the service. And the question for me is if it is that we could at least hear from Tri-Rail. I don't know if someone could come in to just answer a few questions with regards to items such as the dependability of the service itself, maintenance and operation. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
DOT is scheduled to come in September to talk about the update for this study. So maybe at that time, that might be some time to answer those questions as well.
That'd be great. Okay. Anybody else? Nobody else? Okay, so this is our I think it's our last action item. Is there, I already asked for public, right? Okay. So do you have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Who was that? Was that you, Michael?
No, that was Ryan's.
Oh, Ryan.
I'll second it though.
Okay, Ryan Mudridge and Michael Owens, second. Do all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
West Palm opposing. Thank you, Jermaine. Okay, next item, informational items from Wellington. Village of Wellington has their Vision Zero Action Plan, Safe Streets for All update. And Jonathan Reinsvold is at the podium going to present to us. Welcome. Good, good.
I turned it off. Thank you. That's much better. I'll start over. My name is Jonathan Reinsvold. I'm the Director of Engineering for the Village of Wellington. Here for Christian Santa Gonzalez, who's out sick today, unfortunately. But I'm here to talk to you guys about our recent implementation and ongoing study of the Vision Zero Action Plan and where we are at this point today. What's not shown in our slide here, and I'll start off with a little story to begin with here. We started the process back in about 2021. Let me put this down. And it's pretty easy to get the public on board with a Vision Zero Action Plan, I found. And with the help of the TPA bringing in the big guns, we brought in Valerie to talk to the council about it. We were able to pretty easily get a Safe Streets for All action plan. No, excuse me, a Vision Zero ordinance and a Complete Streets ordinance passed through council. And we did a pretty comprehensive presentation with our council to show them what we envisioned in the future and what the Vision Zero program is all about. So I would highly recommend to utilize this team here to get that going for anybody who is interested in getting the Vision Zero Action Plan going in your city. Number two, in order to actually apply for the grant, we used a consultant. We use RMPK. That's our grant consultant. And we just needed to give them a little information. We gave them the crash data, the hotspots that we have in our community of places where we see the most incidents, what a general overview of what our plan would be, and how we would go about addressing some of the items that need to be addressed. So we just needed a cost basically, and they prepared the entire application. And lo and behold, the FHWA is really eager to give money out. So we applied for a $200,000 grant with a $50,000 match on our part. And in order to utilize those funds, we had to go out to bid for a consultant. So you have to go through the RFP process, just so everybody's aware. Can't use a local consultant. That's not allowed through using FHWA funds. It's something that I very much disagree with because local traffic is a very much local traffic knowledge issue. But since you're utilizing federal funds, you have to go out and not put a local preference on there. So that's another item I would caution everyone against. We made that mistake of putting local preference into our RFP, and we had to revise it. So anyway, that got us to the point of beginning. To where we had a consultant on board, and then we can actually start the action plan. And of course, we had to take the consultant to our council to make sure that we got approval to move forward with it, which they did unanimously. So that brings me to right where we are now. We hired a consultant, TJKM. They were hired again through the bid process, and they've been really good.
TJKM is a California-based transportation engineering company. They've done most of the project for us remotely. The community events they've flown in to conduct them in coordination with their subconsultant DDEC. So they did have a local vendor to help out with that. When you have these events, part of the Vision Zero action plan is to have a lot of community involvement and a lot of community events. And when I say a lot, I mean like 3 or 4 community meetings, 3 or 4, depending on what size the project is and all that stuff, and the consultant will help you out with that. 3 to 4, what are they called? The advisory committee meetings, and then finally a acceptance of the plan, which that's where we're at right now. We're going to get our plan over to our council next August or next month. So there's a lot, what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of community engagement that needs to happen, and getting the community to actually show up is quite difficult, I've found. Luckily, during our first meeting, we were in the middle of a election cycle. So we did have public officials, or I shouldn't say public officials, candidates showing up, and they brought some people with them, which made the first public involvement meeting very dense. And we were saying, wow, this is a lot of involvement we're getting. Well, no, not really. We had a lot of candidates that wanted to put their face out there that were kind of filling the room. So what I'm saying in regards to that is any advertising that you can do, any social media blast, any sort of any sort of resources such as the TPA, such as WPTV, any news source. I'm not impartial to WPTV at all, but or WPBF or any of those news sources that can get the word out and make it as easy as possible. Bring food, give them a free dinner, bring coffee, donuts, whatever. Make it as easy as possible for residents to show up and voice their concerns. That's the best way to get them there, you know, to give some free stuff away. So we also had a website set up. It's Vision Zero, WellingtonVisionZero.com. If anybody wants to see it. It's also WellingtonZero.com and zero WellingtonVision.com, and we bought like 10 different addresses so that we didn't get hacked. That was our IT director's idea, but anyway, that's besides the point. If you want to check out that website, it's WellingtonVisionZero.com. It shows what our plan is, but one of the most useful things of that website was a data collection system similar to what we have here for the TPA. If you guys were involved with the call for projects that team put together back here, you can click on a map, draw lines on a map, and show where your hotspots or your areas of concern were. And that was actually more informative than any sort of community involvement that we were able to get people. That was the best way to get people involved is what I'm trying to say. So anyway, I should probably follow this presentation. Here's our timeline. We started off in 2023. We really didn't begin until 2024. We put our Vision Zero task force together in January 2024 and started with our community meetings and public outreach and such, right? Right now we're in this says June council presentation at the end there, but we've obviously passed that. We're not going to present to council until August, but we're in the midst of our final report right now. I actually had a meeting with our team yesterday to finalize the report, and they're in the end stages of making it so it's quote unquote pretty at this point for public consumption. So I think I've gone through most of this, but what we put in the action plan was introduction to the Vision Zero and the principles, which is the Safe Streets for All. Safe Systems Approach is the plan and principles that they use. And I highly encourage you all to look up the Safe Systems Approach, which is not just looking at one set of data. It's looking at crash hotspots. It's looking at people on their phones. It's looking at enforcement. It's looking at response times. It's a more holistic approach to looking at traffic analysis. Of course, they did a collisions of breakdowns and analysis. We used 2013 to 2022 for our data. 2023, for whatever reason, when we started, it wasn't finished. So we just went through the end of 2022 to collect our data. And what our consultant did was they took it all together, put it on a map, similar to the SS4A map, but made it a lot more intuitive. We have an internal dashboard now powered through Power BI. So we can take any data or any crash that happened between 2013 and 2022, and we're able to just find it on a map very easily within our boundary, of course. And so that's a very useful tool to have, especially as a city engineer or any other safety person in the city. It's very good to see the hotspots and have that sort of availability to you. But anyway, with that data, they identified the high injury network roadways, and that's what their action plan is based on, is their high injury network areas, and of course the hotspots, intersections, and such. Our Vision Zero task force had 37 representatives. I know Mr. Owens was on it. We had Palm Beach Sheriff's Office, of course, Palm Beach County School District, representatives from the local hospitals, residents. I had a couple just regular restaurateurs, and actually a golf cart vendor as well that was on there. So what I would recommend with putting your Vision Zero task force together is get heavily involved with the who's going to be on that and how involved they want to be on it. And I'm not picking on you at all. This is I'll say when Mr. Owens is on the committee, right? He had things to say, right? But others on the committee were just kind of on the committee, sat through 5 meetings, never said a word. And you kind of wonder why you're on the committee. And I do the same thing in this committee. The day before I sit on the TPA, and sometimes I don't say a word either. So I get it. But anyway, find people like Mr. Owens that will actually project their feelings or opinions on the committee. So once we had our action plan, sort of our task force kind of put together, of course, we put our project website together. We did our map input platform. We had on that Vision Zero website, we had 96 submitted respondents, 33 unsubmitted respondents, and 140 bounce visitors. So it wasn't really that, there wasn't exactly high traffic there. So again, getting the word out is essential to making this program a community-based effort more than an expert-based effort. Because I would say, in my opinion, the Village of Wellington Vision Zero action plan is going to be more of a consultant, expert, city engineer, city employee-based plan more than a community-based plan, just because of the amount of people that showed up to it. It wasn't from, it wasn't from lack of effort on our part. Our communications team was top notch and using every available platform they had to try to get the word out. We had posters all over the place, and every community center that we have, the gym, the community center, the town hall, any event that we had posters set up that had a QR code, Vision Zero action plan, check it out. You have your phone, check it out, and we've got hardly any traffic. So I don't have to preach to this committee, but people don't complain about traffic until they do. You don't care about accidents till you're in one, that sort of thing. For the ones that care about that, obviously, and PBSO and the law enforcement or the first responders, obviously. So anyway, this particular study that we had to do took 4 task force meetings, two stakeholder outreach meetings, two full community meetings and 2 council meetings to implement. And we're still waiting on the last council meeting, of course. Oops. All right. So some of the challenges we had, which I've spoken through a lot of them already, is data collection analysis. So we use the SS4A, or not the SS4A, I'm sorry, the Signal 4 analytics for all of our crash data needs. So that's where we got our data. I know the sheriff's office had more data, FDOT had more data as well, and some of it was conflicting with each other. So we made the decision to use the analytics data as our basis for the analysis. What I would recommend is push harder on your consultant to get the data, as much data as possible. So, and whatever they have to do to marry the data between each other. We got a little pushback on them, and you know, a little heartburn over how much it's going to cost for them to look at all over. So we relented and let them use the analytics data only instead of trying to use everything else. But that's what I would say there. Of course, stakeholder engagement, get people that actually want to be in the room there, and make sure that, you know, maybe go around the room, give them a roll call and say, hey, you know, why are you here? What's your purpose? What's your drive for being here? Why did you accept this position? And what are you looking to gain out of this? That's something that wasn't really apparent in our stakeholder, or our task force. Public awareness and education, again, of course, just get the word out, try to get people to actually show up and make comments on this. The website was good as far as getting some engagement, but it could have been a lot better. And interdepartmental coordination. We all work in government, well, most of us work in government here. You know, talk to each other. For instance, in my hood, the Public Works Department and Engineering Department, we're very friendly with each other, but sometimes getting them to come and have opinions and actually do intellectual work is tough. And they're the ones that are out on the road all the time. But so we wanted their opinions, but they were kind of reluctant to give it. So that's kind of what I would recommend, is try to have a little bit more mingling with the departments. But that was definitely a challenge in our city. Anyway, lessons learned. I went over all of our lessons learned already. Get the enhanced data strategies. I'm not going to repeat that. I feel like I've given quite a bit of, I'm sorry about this presentation, by the way, I didn't prepare it. So I'm just kind of winging it in case y'all haven't noticed. I was kind of thrusted into this yesterday. But I was the project manager on Vision Zero, so I have a lot of knowledge on it. So anyway, the advice I'd give you is what I've already said about getting the community engaged and everything else. And I'll stop there unless anybody has any questions. I'll be here. I'll stay after for you guys, and I'm happy to address any.
David.
I was curious about the consultant selection. You said it couldn't be a local consultant. What's considered a local? You ended up going with a consultant from California, but you said they had a local office.
They did. Luckily.
So they have to be headquartered somewhere else, but they can have
No,
satellite
that's
offices.
you just can't have a local preference noted in your policy, and you can't have a score for having additional score for having local. So what we used to do, which we don't anymore because of all these grants, is have on our scoring criteria, if you had local preference, that you get extra points. Or I'm sorry, if you were a local firm, you get extra points. If you're a disadvantaged business enterprise, you would get extra points, if, you know, et cetera. But using FHWA funds, you can't consider those types of criteria, which is sometimes a little backwards, because a lot of times they want you to use different, especially DBE criteria, but in this case, it wasn't allowed.
So by non-local, does it have to be out of state or?
No.
Or Just out
No,
of
it doesn't
district
have
or
to be out of
something?
state and which is nice, but it does, you just can't preference your selection based on the location of the consultant.
Okay,
They
so
just have to be, they just have to be qualified.
All right.
Yeah.
That sounds a little confusing, but
It is. But in all fairness, every single, not every single, every single applicant or consultant that submitted that was selected or shortlisted had a local component to them. So
Before I go, were there any public comments?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay. Fadi?
Thanks for your presentation. I think for us at the county, that's pretty useful since we're in the process right now negotiating with the, with the consultant and defining the scope.
Mhm.
I think I have a number of questions. The first one is for your meetings. You said you had 4 meetings plus 2 outreach plus 2 community outreach and 2 stakeholder. Could you explain a little bit more how you
Sure,
organize
yeah.
those meetings?
So we had the community outreach meetings were like events where we'd set
Like
up.
a charrette, you
Yeah.
present things and they come over.
Correct.
They
We-
can write on a map or.
Yeah, we have maps set up and all that jive, and we gave a presentation. What is Vision Zero? And quickly gave that presentation so their eyes didn't gloss over. We wanted their engagement. So there's maps set up, all that stuff, right? Those are the community meetings.
So you had
Yeah.
one meeting at the beginning to get their input and one meeting showing what you're proposing?
Correct. Right.
Okay.
So we did what the first meeting was a general discussion of what Vision Zero is and what we hope to accomplish, right? Of course, zero pedestrian and vehicular deaths and incapacitating injuries. So that's what that was the goal of the first meeting, to show what we want to get done and some of the things that we might do, right? The second meeting was putting all those projects that we came together with and said, all right, this is how we're going to do it. All right. Now we had, I don't know, probably 15 different boards set up with all these different projects. And then we prioritized them based on the public input. Unfortunately, we only had 2 residents show up to the actual project presentation. So we kind of had to do that part ourselves. But
And
Yeah.
how about the task force meeting? How did you organize those?
so the task force meetings we did on Zoom, which was good. It got more engagement and everybody was able to show up easier to those. The attendees or the actual people that were selected to be on, or asked to be on it, I should say, was given to us by the consultant. So, hey, in other cities, we usually have, for instance, a chief of police. We have the fire chief or fire captain. I'm sorry, fire captain. We have a representative from the hospital. We have the public works director. We usually have the city manager. We usually have, of course, the city engineer and whoever is involved in transportation. And they just gave us a whole list of people that are usually on. And so we started doing, reaching out, and that's how we compiled our list.
And those meetings, basically, each one has an opportunity to kind of provide their perspective? or-
Correct. Correct.
The high injury network, did you distinguish between regular injuries, serious injuries, fatalities? Did you focus on particular, maybe pedestrian stuff, or how did you combine those?
So they did, if I had the dashboard in front of me, I'd tell you, but they had 4 categories of injuries. The worst was death, obviously. And then there was incapacitating injuries. And then there was minor injury and then some other, they drive away, no problem, sort of category. The basis of the study was based on the top 2, which is incapacitating injuries and deaths.
Okay. If you don't mind, I have other questions, but if we can
Yeah.
talk to you later on.
Absolutely.
I think your experience is extremely valuable for us.
You
Thank
can call me too. You have my,
Okay.
yeah, that's fine.
Alyssa?
Hi, you pretty much answered my question at the end. I just wanted to know, how did you categorize your injuries?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
but
Okay. Elijah.
Yes, hi, good morning. Elijah with Palm Trend. I just had a quick question more so in regards to your, you said the consultant was doing a lot of data collection or something of that sort. And I wanted to know if what data was requested and if any of it correlated with like public transit or like mobility or like any type of like circulator for the village of Wellington.
Admittedly, no. We're a very low volume public transportation network. So our focus was on multimodal transportation and vehicular transportation.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? This has been helpful for those of us who are looking to embark on the journey. So were you the project manager of the Vision Zero Action Plan?
Yeah, yes. Typically I would send a project to one of my staff members, but this one I felt that I should be involved in it personally. And so I've been, for the most part, the person at Wellington that's been dealing with the Vision Zero Action Plan with the consultant and the residents and everything else.
And about how much time would you say?
Yeah, so I didn't know. I think I bit off a little more than I should have. Where yeah, we have a consultant on board. I didn't realize how needy they would be. And that's not to say that it was, any other consultant would have known anything else, but they just need data from us. They need our input. They need our thoughts. And the only way to get that is to corner us and actually get it from us. So I would say on a weekly basis, I dedicated probably 5 hours a week, at least. And some of the community meeting and other weeks, maybe 10 to 15 hours a week on this. But I feel at the end of the day that it's time well worth spent. And especially if once we get this plan done and start implementing some of the projects, because some of the projects that they've come up with are pretty wild. Wild as in, cost wise and different sort of remedies to ensure traffic safety.
Do you think you would have come into those solutions without it?
I think we come to solutions on our own on a daily basis. And a lot of times they're knee-jerk reactions. They're not good planning documents. So for instance, somebody got T-boned at some intersection, right? Off a side street. So we'll figure out a way to, maybe put a peanut island at that intersection or make everybody turn right instead of going through it. You guys know the deal. Instead of the knee-jerk reaction type, this is more of a holistic approach. So they're looking at the networks as a whole and finding where the most likely places are to have these incidents and focusing their efforts on those areas preemptively, really.
Okay.
I thought, let me just say this. I thought they were just going to focus on, this will be easy for them. All they got to do is find those hotspots where all these injuries are and make adjustments there. I really thought that's what they were, gearing towards. But once I saw their action plan and the projects that they were proposing, it went around the whole village and they proposed projects all over the place in areas that had no incidents or even a whiff of an incident. It's just more preemptive stuff like curves and that sort of areas, places where they can see, okay, this is probably going to be an issue at some point. Let's do something about it.
Okay. Good to hear. Mostly.
Do you have an estimated cost of what some of the implementations for the Vision Zero stuff is going to cost?
Sure. Those are in the plan as well. You have to put together an estimated cost of what the different projects are going to be in order to apply for funds in the future. We have projects that range anywhere from $700,000 to implement, all the way up to $25-30 million to implement. So it depends on the scope of the project, of what they're saying. Now, the way they did it is they lumped a certain project. They say like, hey, this type of project, and I'll just use like the nuclear option, putting roundabouts everywhere, right? Well, that would be a pretty heavy expense, right? That would be like the $25-30 million option, right? But putting the speed radars around town to try to mitigate some of the speeding, that would be a lower cost expense. That would be like, you know, more of like a $400,000 or $500,000 expense. Yep.
All right. I don't see anybody else. So we want to thank you so much. It's helpful for those of us who are in the process, getting ready to be in the process, thinking about the process. Next item is the administrative.
Okay, everyone.
Thank you. Administrative items 4A through 4C, they're informational only. Did I skip something? What did I skip? Tactile wayfinding. Oh, okay. I see it now. Sorry, Valentina, I didn't do it on purpose. So we're gonna hear about 2024 tactile wayfinding for visually impaired.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is really exciting. So there was new research that was pre-published by the Transit Cooperative Research Program that just came out that talks about research for tactile wayfinding for visually impaired individuals. And if you're not aware, there's actually not a lot of research out there for this topic. So that's why it's so exciting. But for today's presentation, I'll just be providing a brief overview on the purpose of this research and what the research entails. And just to let you all know, this has been a hot topic, a popular topic of discussion for this committee in particular. So that's why we are bringing it up today. So the purpose of this research is to determine best practices for tactile walking surface indicators, also known as TWSIs. And just to let everyone know what tactile walking surface indicators, TWSIs, are, they are a type of mobility aid for those who are visually impaired. So I will be using that terminology throughout this presentation. So just to let everyone know. Also, the purpose of this research was to try and experiment the different uses for the TWSIs as a wayfinding system, and also to establish consistent practice guidance for the various conditions under different transportation settings. So there are three, according to this research, there are three different types and uses of TWSI. So again, tactile walking surface indicators. The first one are detectable warning surfaces, also known as DWSs, most commonly known as truncated domes. And as I am sure you have all seen this all over, but they are most commonly used at curb ramps, roadway crossings, conflict points, etc. And those are actually, they are included in the MUTCD and PROWAG, which is why they're so consistent across the United States. The next set of tactile walking surface indicators are tactile directional indicators, also known as TDIs, and they are most commonly known as raised bars or parallel bars. So this type of tactile directional indicator, they can be used along sidewalks, shared streets, inside train stations, at getting close to where the bus stops are, etc. And there are also the tactile warning delineators, also known as TWDs. And these are most commonly used to separate shared spaces. So you will most likely see these at shared use paths, at sidewalk level bike lanes, and any shared spaces. So just to let everyone know, again, detectable warning surfaces, they are included in the MUTCD and PROWAG. However, TDIs, tactile directional indicators, and TWDs, tactile warning delineators, are not included in the MUTCD and PROWAG. However, that does not mean that you cannot use it, that you cannot install them across your projects. They have been installed as pilot projects throughout the country, and I'm going to show that in the next couple of slides. But unfortunately, because there is no national guidance and no national standards for the use of tactile directional indicators and tactile warning delineators, that's why if you do see these pilot projects, they might look different from state to state and country to country. So that's why. There was a document that was published by FHWA called Accessible Shared Streets, which I encourage everyone to read that document. It includes a little bit of guidance for the use of directional indicators and of course the detectable warning surfaces. But that document was published back in 2017. But even FHWA recommended in that document that unfortunately, because there is not much research on this topic and national guidance, then FHWA recommended that practitioners use the International Standard Organization, also known as the ISO, as a guiding document for the use of tactile directional indicators and tactile warning delineators. So these are some examples of choice point indicators, and choice point indicators can be used coupled with the TDIs. So again, the tactile directional indicators and the detectable warning surfaces. I know I'm throwing a lot of acronyms, but DWSs. And the points of these choice point indicators are to so that they can be used as a wayfinding system. So these choice point indicators, they are typically 3 feet. And according to this research, they did an experiment using 3 types. So on the screen there, I'm showing where they used a TDI, a tactile directional indicator, in the middle there of that 3-inch square. Then the second experiment that they used is they put a detectable warning surface in the middle of the choice point. And the last one that they tested was a blank choice point. And they actually found in this research that participants, so the people that participated in this research were all visually impaired, of course. They found that they were most successful in navigating their way using the blank choice point indicator. So these are some examples of the tactile walking surface indicators that can be used both indoors and outdoors. On the left of the screen, I am showing an example of it indoors. So that one is actually inside a train station. So as you can see, there's the choice point indicator as well as the tactile directional indicator, along with the detectable warning surface as all together so that it can be used as a wayfinding system. So as you can see, the purpose of that is so that the person that is visually impaired is walking along, they can use their cane and use it side by side so that they can detect, okay, I should be walking straight, and then make a choice from there, which is why they're called choice points. And then on the right of the slide, I'm showing of how it can be used outdoors. So on that example, that's a sidewalk level bike lane and a bus boarding island. So as you can see there, there's the tactile directional indicator, the detectable warning surface, etc. So these are some examples of the tactile directional indicators and the tactile warning delineators that have been used across the United States. So the first one there is TDI in San Francisco, California, that they, as you can see there, that they used the choice points along with the TDIs inside a train station so that people who are visually impaired are able to navigate their way inside the train station. And then we actually have a local example here in Florida, a TDI in Sarasota, Florida, that they used it to approach to where the crosswalk is. And then there's an example there of a TWD in San Francisco, California, where they used it to separate the space between pedestrians and bicyclists at that sidewalk level bike lane that you see there. And last but not least, there's the TDI in Seattle, Washington, where they use this as a pilot project that interestingly, they used it to go along the crosswalk and they used it along the edges of the crosswalk so that someone who is visually impaired is able to walk along the crosswalk and so that they can know or better know exactly where they should be walking along. So some of the results and applicability of this research. So the research found that they recommend to use the choice point indicators with the blank spaces because they did find that participants were most successful using it with the blank space. Most participants were also most successful walking on the TDI, on the tactile directional indicator, than beside it. They were successful either way, but they did find a slight higher success rate for walking on the TDI than beside it. Also, one research gap for this research is that unfortunately it did not provide guidance for the use of tactile directional indicators along crosswalks. So that was one of the gaps of this research. And if you are interested in learning more and just reading more on this research, you can visit the PDF there that's linked on the slide. It's free, you can download it. And then there was actually a webinar that was hosted a couple of weeks ago on this exact research that was hosted by the Pedestrian and Bicycle Information Center. And that's also linked on the slide if you're interested to view the presentation and the slides as well. And that concludes my presentation. Can take happy to take any questions.
Do we have any public comments? Okay. I wish Mr. Goodenough was here so we could get his input on his opinions of what works, what doesn't work, and show that we've been listening, been trying to move this issue forward for him. And I'm just curious how well, because I know one of the issues that keeps being brought up is the shared use path for visually impaired people. And I'm wondering how well these would work, for example, on Sun Trail or somewhere else, so, how that all works. So we'll have to get some more input from him on that. Do we have any? Oh, I see David.
I'm just curious, do you manage any grant programs that are specific for ADA improvements?
Yeah, the Transportation Alternatives Program.
Okay.
And then I think the community, what's it called? The FHWA grant pilot. Yeah, there's some out there by the federal government.
What was the second one that Brian mentioned?
The transit, Brian, yeah.
I believe that there's an FHWA grant on transit access for legacy stations. So more so for subterranean above grade transit stations where historically they have not been brought up to ADA code yet. I'll look and see if I can find that and get it to you before you head out today. So give me a minute and we'll get it for you before we go.
But I actually just thought that actually for Seattle, so let me go back. So this TDI there that Seattle used as a pilot program, they actually proposed that for their Safe Streets and Roads for All grant as a demonstration project. So you can use that for the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant if you're interested as a demonstration project.
That's a good idea.
Mhm.
Thanks.
Great. Good idea. Moisey.
The TWDs, are they in a material that's easy to like cross over in the event that the bicyclist has to get out of the lane in a quick emergency?
I'm not sure. That's a good question, Mosey. I would guess that hopefully there's that information in that research. But again, unfortunately, because there's not much research on all of this, I'm not sure, but that's a great question.
Aaliyah.
Sorry. I don't know if it doesn't back up the research, but I've physically ridden my bike over those pretty fine.
Oh, where?
In New York.
New York?
Yeah, I used to bike
Nice.
a lot in New York.
Nice.
Good for you. Oh, good. Okay. Anybody else? That was good. Sorry, I'm glad we got back to it. All right. So, if we don't have anybody else, then the next items are administrative items and are informational only. There are no staff presentations. Are there any public comments on those things?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay. And then they include the governing board summary, the DOT scheduling report. And then our next meeting is September, so don't come in August. It'll be September 5th is when we'll be here next. So thank you, everybody, and welcome again. We'll see you then.